Steve Wilkes better be the head coach of the Carolina Panthers next season. This guy is doing a fantastic job with this team. Imagine me telling you before the season that the Carolina Panthers around week 17 were going to have a shot at winning the NFC South. Many of you non-Panthers fans probably would have laughed. You probably would have said, man, JT, the Panthers have no shot. Tom Brady and the Bucs are going to win this division with ease. And then here's the kicker. Imagine me telling you before the season that the Carolina Panthers in week 17 were not only going to be competing for an opportunity of winning the division, but they're going to be doing it with an interim head coach. This is some Disney movie type stuff that we are witnessing right now. Steve Wilkes not only has energized this locker room and this team, but he has energized a whole entire fan base. Go to any of the Carolina Panthers social media accounts and go to the comment section. You will see fans commenting saying that they are crying or how they believe in Steve Wilkes. Like, Steve Wilkes has galvanized the whole entire Carolina Panthers fan base, this locker room, the front office. There is no reason why Steve Wilkes shouldn't be the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, regardless if they win the division or not. If they win the division, you 100% have to make him your head coach. If they don't win the division, you're probably still going to have some tough decisions and some tough discussions that have to be made. But you definitely are going to have to make Steve Wilkes one of the front runners for this coaching job. He has a record of 4-5 as the interim head coach this season of the Carolina Panthers. And yeah, they do things conservatively, but it's because look what they have to work with on offense. They are winning games with Sam freaking Darnold. Not only has he won games with Sam Darnold, but he also has won games with PJ Walker. Listen, for all you guys who are knocking Steve Wilkes and his coaching staff for being too conservative, you got to understand something. The Panthers don't have that great of a roster. And when you look at their quarterback situation right now, they're winning games the best way they can. You see, part of being a great coach is being able to find ways to win and being able to adapt to the current personnel that you have to work with. And with the current personnel and talent that the Panthers have offensively, the best way of them winning games is by running the football. And it's funny how some people knock them for running the football so much when the mantra of this team is keep pounding. The Carolina Panthers were averaging damn near 10 yards per carry in their domination over the Detroit Lions. This team right now is playing some inspired football behind Steve Wilkes. You know, there was a rumor that came out a month ago that said that the Carolina Panthers potentially could trade for Mike Tomlin. Now, of course, I just disregarded it. I was like, bruh, the Steelers, no way they trade away Mike Tomlin. Well, if there was any truth to those rumors, there's no reason to even attempt the Mike Tomlin trade because you have a guy who is similar to Mike Tomlin. Steve Wilkes is an ultimate motivator. This guy knows how to get players to believe in themselves. And you can see it right now. He has these players believing in themselves to the degree that they're playing way better than how they have in the past. Look at Sam Darnold right now. Sam Darnold is playing the best football of his whole entire career. And yeah, the statistics may not be all that pretty. If you watch the game and you look at how Sam Darnold is performing, he is doing what the Carolina Panthers need him to do. Take care of the football, make big plays when need be, and that's it. This is a team that isn't going to do anything flashy on offense. They want to run the football down your throat as many times as possible, and they want to rely on their defense. I hope that Steve Wilkes not only gets this job, but he is able to find his franchise quarterback, because that was one of the large reasons why he failed in the only year that he was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. You went into that season with Sam Darnold, with Sam Bradford as your initial starting quarterback. Then you end up putting in Josh Rosen, and the team around them wasn't great, and it just wasn't a good situation. And you definitely have to give Steve Wilkes a lot of criticism. You know, there was a lot of mismanagement about how he went about his first year in Arizona, but he definitely could have gotten a second opportunity. If you're looking for a reason to give Steve Wilkes another coaching job, listen to Matt Rule's interview that he did on Good Morning Football a couple of weeks ago. They asked him, how did you feel after you got fired? He said, of course it sucked, but he was happy when he walked away and found out that Steve Wilkes was going to be named the interim head coach. There are many head coaches that when you ask them about Steve Wilkes, they have nothing but admiration for the guy. They praise the guy for his leadership, how good he is at motivating players and getting players ready to play. And not only that, but this guy is a fantastic defensive mind, and he is a great head coach. You see, I'm not really somebody who is a big fan of giving failed head coaches second opportunities because the majority of times they don't work out. But I definitely think from what Steve Wilkes has done so far with the Carolina Panthers this season, he definitely deserves major consideration for this head coaching job. And if they make it into the playoffs and they win this division, not only does he have to be the head coach of the Carolina Panthers next season, but most likely he wins coach of the year. I've never seen the team win games with several starting quarterbacks, an interim head coach. This is something that is unparalleled. The last time I recall seeing something like this when a team rallied behind their interim head coach was the Las Vegas Raiders last season behind Rich Bisaccia. Hopefully I pronounced his name right. I apologize if I got it wrong. But you remember what the state of the Raiders were last year once they parted ways or once John Gruden stepped down? You know, you had the Henry Ruggs incident. You had a lot of off-the-field distractions. And yet, that team rallied behind their head coach, and they found a way to get into the playoffs. And they narrowly beat the Bengals in the wild card round. So you look at what Steve Wilkes has done, galvanizing this team, galvanizing this fan base. I believe that the Panthers can win this division. Now, the Saints are still in it. The Falcons still aren't out of it yet. This division is still anybody's to win. Of course, Tampa Bay has the lead right now. But for the Carolina Panthers, when's the last time the Carolina Panthers played in a meaningful football game late in December with playoff chances on the line? It's been a while since you've been here as a Carolina Panthers fan. And yeah, you're 6-9, but it doesn't matter if you have a winning record or a losing record. If you win this division and you make it into the playoffs, this season was a massive success. And not to mention that you're still going to have a couple of draft picks there, so you can still find your franchise quarterback next year, whether that be via the draft or rather you want to sign one in free agency. This is a roster that has a lot of great young talent, and the Panthers, for the most part, have done a really good job at drafting. So they have another good draft this year. Steve Wilkes, if he ends up being named the head coach, which I believe he will, he ends up getting the quarterback situation taken care of. He improves the offensive line, gets some more talent on the defense side of the football. The Panthers could have a really bright future under Steve Wilkes as their head coach. You know, the Carolina Panthers right now, this is one of the best stories, if not the best story in the NFL. I mean, who would have thought that Steve Wilkes would galvanize this team the way that he has and have this team playing meaningful football late in the year? And think about this. In less than a year, Steve Wilkes not only has won over the locker room, but he kind of has changed the culture in Carolina. It took Matt Rule how many years to try to change the culture in Carolina? He was talking about this 4-year process, and yet Steve Wilkes comes in and has this team at the brink of competing for the NFC South title and making the playoffs. You got to give a huge round of applause to Steve Wilkes and the job that he has done with the Carolina Panthers this year. Unfreaking believable. And regardless if the Carolina Panthers win this thing or not, I think that Steve Wilkes deserves major consideration for this head coaching job. And if anything, he better be their head coach next year. There are Panthers fans who are already calling Steve Wilkes their head coach. You go to the comment section on Instagram, they say, that's my head coach. My head coach. You listen to these players, they say, that's my head coach. The way they talk about Steve Wilkes, they don't view this guy as an intern. They view this guy as their head coach. And I promise you, if he doesn't get the head coaching job, there's going to be a lot of upset fans and a lot of upset players. And I wouldn't be surprised if we even see players take it as far as to writing letters personally to David Tepper to get Steve Wilkes his head coaching job. You know, Steve Wilkes has a lot of things riding on him right now in his favor for him getting this job. You have the support of the fan base. You have the support of the players. And also, you have the results. You are 4-5 right now. And even if you lose out these last 2 games, regardless of how this season plays out, you have a very strong argument for not only being the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, but for getting a head coaching job elsewhere. If Carolina doesn't want to hire you, you can easily go to another team and show what you did this season and have a shot at landing a head coaching gig. This guy has the Carolina Panthers competing for a shot at winning this division, having to play with several different starting quarterbacks, having to play with Sam Darnold, a guy who we all viewed and regard as a bust, and has this guy balling and believing in himself. And you see, when you go back and you look at Sam Darnold in the past, a lot of people, the big knock that they always had on him was his confidence. Every time you heard Sam Darnold speak, it sounded like his confidence was shot. And when the Carolina Panthers traded for Baker Mayfield, or when I remember it was a podcast Sam Darnold was on, and they were asking him about the possibility of the Carolina Panthers bringing in another quarterback and him having to compete, and you go back and you listen to that interview, it kind of sounded like his confidence was shot. Well, Steve Wilkes has Sam Darnold believing in himself. And yeah, he may not be having impressive games by box score standards. This guy is getting the job done for Carolina. Steve Wilkes better be the head coach of the Carolina Panthers in 2023. And I'm going to keep pounding on the table for him to get this head coaching job. And I'm going to keep pounding for the Carolina Panthers to finish this season strong. I had this team winning, 7-8 games? Never knew they would win 7-8 games potentially with Steve Wilkes as their interim head coach. Fantastic, phenomenal job that Steve Wilkes has done. And this isn't even his staff. He didn't hire most of these guys. These are Matt Rule's guys. And yet, that goes to show you how great of a leader Steve Wilkes is. Part of being a great leader is being able to find ways to work with people even though you may not have a lot of history with them and you may not know them. You still have to find a way to win games. So Steve Wilkes had to find a way to win with the coaching staff that wasn't his, had to find a way to re-energize this team and this fan base. He's done all 3. I don't see no reason why David Tepper shouldn't make Steve Wilkes the full-time head coach of the Panthers moving forward. At least give the guy 1 or 2 seasons. Many coaches in NFL circles have nothing but positive things to say about Steve Wilkes. And many of them will tell you that he got the raw end of his first tenure in Arizona. Steve Wilkes, fantastic job with the Carolina Panthers this season.